my first 4 years of primary school, which was at a school in Mowbray, Salt River Methodist. There was one very famous person there, Neville Alexander, the ANC guy who was banned. His sister was one of my teachers. So I went to sub A, sub B there, and standard 1, standard 2. At the start of the year, standard 2, in Mowbray, then we just stayed around the corner from the school there. It was quite early in the year. Then on my way from school, one day, home after school, I just became lame. Completely lame, so I had to crawl home. Then we had a maid at the time. She phoned my mom. My mom called the doctor. The doctor rushed me to hospital. And I was given, I was operated on, and I remained in hospital for 8 months. And I had contacted a condition called osteomiëlitis lack femur, which was a disease of the bones. So I was in plaster for 7 months, from my chest right down to my left leg, right down to the toes. And I wasn't allowed to walk or stand. I couldn't eat solids, all liquids, and couldn't use the toilet, had to use pan, and that went on. And then after 7 months, I had to learn to walk again. So I gradually started walking at the beginning of November. December, I was starting to eat again, and you might wonder what the hell this all got to do with athletics, but that's how it started. So I remember that Christmas year, I took about 2 hours to finish my lunch. So by now I hadn't participated in any sport, and the doctors had told my parents I'd never be allowed, I will never be able to participate in any sport. So my mother decided to move me from a school in Mowbray to Salt River, where my granny could keep an eye on me. She lived right opposite the school. So Salt River Methodist, famous guy in my class for the next 3 years was Sir Resident Desai, High Court Judge. Trevor Manuel was there. He was one class below us. And then in that December-January period, I just became remarkably strong. So for the 1 month I was learning to walk. The next month I was running again. So the school started, and in this new school, and they had January, February, they have athletics. They tried the kids out, and then I just started running away from the kids. Then my granny, she wasn't aware of the fact that I must not participate in sport, doctor's orders. So years ago, when I was about 20, there was a story in a newspaper which has now disappeared off the face of the earth. You might remember, called the Clarion. And the headline said, "Now Herman shows the doctor what he's made of." So what happens is, so I said to my granny, it looks like they're going to pick me for the team. I'm the fastest in the school. Never mind in my age group, I ran away from the under 15s too. So I said, there's no way my mommy's going to buy me a shorts. So she said, okay, we have to make a plan. So she never bothered again. Then about 3 or 4 days before the sports, they said to me, now you're running. You're going to run for the school. So I had to tell my granny, listen, make a plan. So she said, okay, no problem, sir. Like in the old days, all grannies could do everything. She was a seamstress. She took the cloth off the ironing board and she made me a shorts, like a real tabal shorts, really big. Yeah, a massive shorts. So on top of it, I was chosen here at Greenpoint Track to walk in front with a flag. I've seen the picture a million times, I don't know where it is. Got this massive pants, which is taken from the made of cloth from the ironing board. Teachers used to bet on me money, so I used to win. So that went on to standard 3, so I could run a bit. That school I was at wasn't serious about athletics, so we didn't go further than champions of champions. Standard 3 I won, standard 4, standard 5, all going well. Then I went to cross the road to Wesley. So by that time so that school had a bit more interest in athletics, but not too much. So they ran in the C section that time. There wasn't all that many schools. Maybe about 40 schools. So we were in the C section. They weren't serious. I were in the C section. The Saturday, they ran us into the ground because we ran against the A and the B. That goes on for the next 3 years, 6, 7. And in the meantime, By that time, we thrown out of Mowbray by the Group Areas Act, and we dumped in a very, very notorious township called Bonteheuwel. Right there, where the gangs were rife, and every other day you run for your life, or you learn to fight. I was involved with a lot of fights to protect my brother. But anyway, then standard 8, maybe my parents thought maybe I should go and work, and I also had given some thought, but there were quite a few people who said, no, don't go work, man, you're an athlete, you go. Yeah, I had a relative who was at Alexander Sinton, and he said, no, I think you must go to Sinton. So I went to Sinton, and then started training, and then in the day before the inter-house, I injured myself, but I ran the next day, and I ran against a guy who had literally cleaned up in the 100 meters for the last 4 or 5 years, Ivan Masters, and he beat me, but he only just beat me. So the word went around, oh, this guy must be bloody good, Ivan just beat him. At that time I only ran 100, didn't run a 200. So now this would be 1968 now, I would have been in standard 9. So I was amazed at the reaction. Ivan just beat me, and people said, no, Ivan only just beat this guy, and he was injured. Quite a few teachers at that time, when Sinton was the #1 athletic school for a number of years, and they were absolutely athletics mad. Quite a few teachers said to me, Herman, you can beat Ivan. So that would have been quite a thing, because he was the province champ. Him and Abercrombie, they shared 100 or 150, and 1 week he wins. So I was chosen for Alexander Sinton, and Ivan Masters and myself were the 100-meter athletes in 1968. The day before the athletics, there's always a run around to get the program to see who's drawn in what heat and things like that. So our teacher Dennis McKay was well known in athletic circles. He came back with a program from Harold Cressy. They were the conveners. So they drew it up. Then they saw that Alex Abercrombie and Ivan Masters, who are like the reigning province champions, are drawn in the same heat. Was the objection, you can't have 2 champions in the same heat, it's just poor planning. So they decided, well, who's the other Sinton guy? They said Gibbs. No one knew about him. Okay, put him in. So they put me in with Alex Abercrombie. So we ran in the heats, and we did heat. Plus we equal the record. So that was quite a thing. I mean, previous years they beat me when I was at Wesley. Then my athletics teacher said to me, Herman, the importance of the final here is that there's a team going to Durban, and they're using these races as the trials. So if you can win the final, they must pick you. Went to a newspaper that time called Landstem. They're the forerunners of Rapport.
Landstem.
Yeah. I think you will know it. You remember that. Yeah. So they were rugby mad, but they also started a paper then commonly referred to as the whatnot section. You know, all these papers like the Cape Times had a black page, Sunday Times had a black page. That time the Landstem had a extra. The Sunday Times also had an extra. And I went to buy photographs, and this Dutchman said to me, Gibbs, yes, he said to me in Afrikaans, you are very good. We know we can't help you because of the Sakkos thing. We were not supposed to have any contact with whites. He said, but we would like to help you, and nobody will have to know about it. So they gave me a guy who was one of the best coaches in South Africa. He picked me every night up at Langa. Langa's opposite Bonteheuwel. He picked me up in his car. He takes me wherever we go to training. We train in Stellenbosch, in Pinelands. There's so many venues. UCT, and I trained with some really good athletes, and it was a terrific experience, because even though this was during the period of isolation, these whites still had exposure. Paul Nash's coach was attending lectures in the States. Major John Short. Guys like Gert Potgieter were still attending lectures all over the world and keeping up to date. My coach Neville Nichols had access to all this, so it was a brilliant experience for me. So that lasted 1970, mid-1970 into 1972, which is when I stopped running. So by end of 1971, I was shit hot. Word was getting out already internationally. So when I ran on that day, there was a newspaper from England who had heard about me. And they had clocked that day 10:05, although it should never have been 10:05. But two of the watches said 10:02. But Richard Reeve said, that's too good. That's too good. We're going to be looking silly. So this journalist came along and he scraped the thing and he said, you ran on this track. Look at all the dust on this. It was a cinder track that time. It's a cinder track, they said. It's incredible. So that was basically the story. Then I stopped. What happened is, this lunchtime people, they said, you live in Bonteheuwel. There's so much sport going on. But we can't get people to go there. Everybody's terrified. I said, no, you don't blame them. It's a mad place, man. That time there wasn't only these gangs, there were a lot of women gangs. They were ruthless. Tamati gangs, they used to call them. You know? So it was ugly.